Hi everyone, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Jessica, and this is 90s Babies Nostalgia, where we rewatch and sometimes watch for. Am I doing this wrong?
We're two fully grown millennials rewatch and sometimes watch for the
Oh,
first time tween
okay.
entertainment from the early 2000s.
Yeah. Let's start over.
Get home from school, turn on my TV. Who are these friends staring right back at me? Now that we're older, why don't you come over and go back in time with me? 90s babies nostalgia.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Jessica, and this is 90s Babies Nostalgia, where two fully grown millennial women rewatch and sometimes watch for the first time early. Nope, it's not early, guys. It's tween entertainment from the early 2000s.
Just to be clear, we are not sponsored by nor affiliated with any of the shows or channels or products or anything mentioned in this podcast. We just really like talking about TV. And today, the TV that we're talking about is That's So Raven, Season 3. I like how every time that we try to say something in sync with each other, we always
just pause.
We just like go half speed. So season 3 is a beast. Like, it's 35 episodes. I had a full anxiety moment, trying to decide which episodes we were going to talk about. Jessica had to call me because I was sending her 5 long ass messages at a time, and she was like, this is getting us nowhere. Like, what? Talk me through it.
Yep.
Because there's 35 episodes and there's probably just as many guest stars. We get like huge names, and I'm gonna shout them all out at the end of the next episode when we finish this season. But we get a lot of big names, and we get a lot of people who are on Disney Channel elsewhere, like other shows, whether it's Even Stevens or a future show.
Yep.
So it's big. And on the other end, we don't have any plots, really. We get some new characters that we'll get into right from the bat. We mainly get one new recurring character who shows up in seasons 3 and 4. We don't get really Alana and Devon the way that we did before. So every episode truly stands on its own in this one.
Yeah, we get reoccurring characters, but less so reoccurring plot lines.
Yeah, because the characters that we get aren't like Devon, where like we see the relationship blossom.
Yep.
Yeah. But you can tell without, even if you hadn't like been alive during this time, or you hadn't been aware of Disney Channel, or you had no idea like the way that Raven blew up, you can tell that it blew up just from the guest stars that are in this show.
Yep.
So, with that said, should we jump in?
Yeah.
And I feel the need to say, like, sorry, I know I just spoke a lot. I just feel the need to say we're going to try to get through these first episodes. I don't remember which ones it is. It'll be in the title, though. And it's episodes 1 through 14 that we're covering, some within there. And we're going to try to get through these first ones quickly because we have a guest coming in for the last 3 episodes. So I hope that you're looking forward to that and keep listening. Okay, yes. Episode 3.
Opportunity shocks. So Presto Jones, which I don't really know what he does. He's famous in some sort of capacity.
He's kind of like a Shark Tank type person. You know, like a venture capitalist. Yeah.
He's going to the Chill Grill for an event. So everyone's trying to brainstorm their invention or creative idea to show to him. That's important. Now, Sierra is bothering Raven. She's the new character. She's a little girl that I think is Raven's next door neighbor. And she wants to find someone. And Raven's like, you need to find someone to play with that's your own age. And so Eddie's like, I have this annoying next door neighbor named Stanley. So they kind of set them up on a little picnic to get to know each other. And Stanley decides that he's in love with Raven and doesn't want to give Sierra the time of day and just wants to spend all his time and attention on Raven. And so Sierra gets mad at Raven for stealing her boyfriend. Raven has a vision that Stanley messes up her chances of showing Presto, her invention, which is like this cool light up outfit for his hip hop dancers. Raven shows Presto her outfit for his hip hop line, and then her vision comes true, and Eddie kind of picks Stanley up and try to take him away, but it doesn't really work. And so then Eddie challenges Stanley to a dance-off, and Stanley wins. So then Raven challenges Stanley to a dance-off, and Sierra shows up and is pissed and is like, why are you still trying to steal my boyfriend? And so Sierra runs up and pulls on Raven's outfit. And so then Raven's like being electrocuted while dancing because there's lights in her outfit. And then Stanley and Sierra end up hitting it off. And then Sierra proposes and is like, so I'm going to have Stanley Monday through Friday, and then you're going to have him on the weekends. And like, that's really the whole episode.
Did you touch on the fact that everyone's trying to pitch to this?
Oh, everyone is trying to pitch to... I did kind of touch on it, but I didn't say what people's inventions were.
Yeah.
So everyone's trying to pitch to this like venture capitalist Presto different ideas. So Raven is like the hip-hop dancing outfit that lights up. Mm-hmm. Victor's is something called the Chill and Grill. And you can chill and grill. So it's like a... what is that called? Not like a panini press.
The Tyson grill thing.
Yeah, it's like a Tyson grill. They have a name. But it's like one of those grills that you can like put chicken breast on. You press the little clamp thing done, and then it beeps when it's done in like 10 minutes. A lot of people who meal prep use them. So it has a function that does that. And then it also has a function that if you need to like make something really cold, you can stick it in there. But Victor cannot get it to work. Like when he shows it to Presto, he puts a steak in the grill part and puts like shrimp or fish in the
chill
part. And it's flip-flopped. Like his steak ends up literally being frozen solid.
Yeah. He's chilling and grilling at the same time. Is his pitch.
Yes.
Which, like, I don't know why the chill grill is Victor's entire personality now. I mean, I get, like, okay, starting a business is a big deal, but I would think that, like, he would have a better idea than this. But anyway.
Sure, I agree. And then Corey he finds out about this, like, family recipe for a stain remover. And so he basically steals that recipe, but tries to make it, like, way stronger. And it, like, literally, if you have a big old like guacamole stain and you spray on it, it just disappears. The stain becomes invisible. But he makes it so strong that it actually wears out clothes and will damage your clothes because it's too strong.
Which we learn the hard way when, he is trying to get stuff out of Preston's suit and it destroys it.
Yeah.
So,
like, it literally falls apart.
Part of my, like, stress and anxiety about assigning episodes for this season was that because there's no plot lines, I had 11 episodes of Merit, which felt like not enough because there's 35 in the frickin' season, and we covered 16 of season 2, which has 22 episodes, maybe? I wanted us to match that. So we got 16. And how I did that was I filled in where it felt kind of important or where I just enjoyed an episode. Sierra is only in 2 episodes of Raven, which I find strange because I remember her so well.
Me too.
This is the second one. She's also in episode 2 right before this. And that's where she's introduced as Raven's annoying neighbor. It's very cute. She's played by Juliette Goglia, who is also in an episode of Hannah Montana and 2 episodes of Good Luck Charlie.
Yeah.
She's not in a whole lot else, but aside from like guest star appearances, but I just like remember her very vividly from being in a lot of things, I guess.
Yep.
Sort of like how G. Hernelius was, except she actually got her own show. But I love her. You get Stanley, played by Bobby J. Thompson, who mostly is like a small-time rapper who's currently on Wild and Out. Like, he's not done that much. But Stanley is in... He stays, and he's in a number of episodes in season 3 and season 4, and he's in an episode of Cory in the House. And he's so much more annoying.
Yes.
He's so annoying.
Yes. And Sierra is also there to be annoying.
But she's like cute
annoying.
But
the actor portrays it in a very cute, annoying way. Where, Stanley is just annoying. I could do without him.
And he's another kid that we get who is even younger than Cory by years, but is, for some reason, like, aggressively chasing older women. He says, I'm not cute, I'm fine.
Yeah, and at one point, he literally says, Sierra's a girl, where I like a woman. And it just feels...
gross.
Yeah.
He does have one good line. I'm 52 pounds of serious.
Yeah. He also calls Raven a foxy lady at one point. Yeah. And I just want to know, has anyone ever called you a foxy lady?
I cannot confirm nor deny.
Okay.
I've been catcalled a lot. So if it did happen, it would have been in that, but I don't think so. No one's ever called you that?
No.
It's not. Well, it just kind of, I guess that kind of goes into like his characterization though, because he's too young to really know what he's doing or what he's saying. And he's really learned it from like adults. And so maybe his parents were watching like an older series where someone says that.
Definitely.
Kids imitate what they see.
Yeah. Other thing to note, which we kind of mentioned, is Presto is played by James Avery, who's known for playing Philip Banks on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yes. So this is the start of our really big guest stars.
Yes.
The graphics of the guac being removed are so hilariously bad.
Mm-hmm.
They just magically like lift off the shirt. It hurt to watch. Another weird little side note. I work in contracts. I work in publishing contracts. So it's a specific niche. But where Cory, before the stain remover starts destroying Presto's suit, Presto's really impressed by it, and so Cory's drafted up his own contract to sign. It's way too short. It's only like a couple pages.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, I think when people show contracts, they go way too big and put like a house contract like 100 pages, which is still too long. Mine are usually like 20 pages, but Cory's is so short. I was just like, what does that even say? Like, you will give me money?
Yeah, and normally, at least in my experience, which mine are all like sales contracts that I've had to review, but like in my experience, again, they're not as long as 20 pages, but they're like 8 to 15, and then if it's a really, really big event, 20 to 30. If you draw up the contract, that portion is an addendum. It still follows the standard contract, and then the addendum is normally if companies have specific things that need to be in the contract. So it's weird to me that Cory draws it up, and then it's not coming from Presto.
Oh, that's what you mean. It's like it's the wrong order.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, Mm-hmm.
You know? Also, this is Presto's birthday party, and it's all high schoolers. Every single person there is a high schooler. And I don't know if that was just an error on Disney's part, that they were like, oh, we have to film high school scenes this episode, so we're just going to keep all the same background and make them fill in the chill girl for Presto's birthday party. Or if that's really who he's inviting to his birthday party, which then is really creepy and uncomfortable. So I just really didn't understand that.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even catch that it was his birthday party. I completely forgot that part. Mm-hmm. I just thought he was like dancing or dining at the chill grill for some reason.
No, it's like his event.
Yeah. That's right, because he's always like, why are you bothering me?
Yeah, he's there to celebrate and have a good time, and literally every single person in the Baxter family except for Tanya is terrorizing him.
So I will say I enjoyed Sierra's other episode more, and I had us watch this one instead because it introduces Stanley and he sticks around and she does not. This episode's kind of boring at first, I think, but I do also think it really picks up. The breakdance scene is hilarious.
Yeah. Yes.
Raven's
hilarious.
Whole outfit starts short-circuiting and she's like jolting around the dance floor, and just like, it's that full body committal that we've talked about. Like, yes. It really does pick up to me.
Yes, I completely agree. And that's the scene I remember, is the dance-off scene. Mm-hmm. And this is very characteristic of Stanley, of going into competitions for things.
Yeah, and we learn that he's like a little wonder kid who can kind of do everything.
Yeah. So I kind of like that it sets up his personality, actually, because that is something they stick to. His competitiveness, and he like constantly challenging people. So it is the episode ends really fun, and it is pretty funny as well.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of Stanley and competitions.
Yep.
Episode 4.
Taken to the cleaners.
So in this one, it opens with Raven and Tanya talking. Tanya's got like a list of chores for Raven to do. But as Tanya's talking, Raven's just hearing blah, 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 blah. And Raven's convinced that she can get her chores done while she hangs out with her friends, and Eddie and Chelsea come over for a movie day. But she's kind of like cutting corners in order to accomplish all of the things that she wants to do. For instance, she tells the dry cleaners that she can't come because she broke her leg, and the dry cleaner comes very angrily to her house and is like, you don't look like you broke a leg, and why do you have to live on the tallest hill in San Francisco, or steepest hill in San Francisco?
Yeah.
While all of this is happening, Tanya's really upset because her professor lost her assignment. And this is not the first time. Her professor is loopy a little bit. Forgetful is a better word. He's forgetful. Yeah. And she's upset and like angry. And so she's printed out her assignment for him to pick up. And she's told Raven that she has to present it to him because Tanya has to go somewhere. Before she leaves, though, as she's angry, Victor's like, I was watching Oprah the other day, because it just came on. I don't know. But anyway, Oprah was saying that if you're really angry, you should just write a letter about all the things you want to tell the person and not send it so that you get it out. So she writes this letter. She leaves it on the table, not on the table next to her assignment. They are on different tables in distinctly different sized envelopes.
One is on the kitchen counter, and
it's in a manila.
In a manila envelope. That is the assignment in big bold letters. It says for Professor Benjamin, or whatever his name is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the other one is on the desk in like a regular white envelope that you would mail just like a trifold letter in. Mm-hmm. And it does have Professor Benjamin, but written much smaller, and it's kind of set off to the side of the desk.
Yes. However, in natural Raven style, Professor Benjamin comes in, and Raven gives him the white envelope with the angry letter. Mm-hmm. Tanya comes back. They find out what happened. They freak out. But Raven has a vision of him handing over his jacket to the dry cleaners with the envelope still in it. So Tanya and Raven are rushing to the dry cleaners, and they end up in this weird, like, they end up on the cleaning conveyor in the jacket, like, going in circles, and they're fighting with the dry cleaner about this, and
because it's the same dry cleaner who delivered
yes,
the items to Raven and knew that she had faked having a broken leg. So this dry cleaning lady already was not a huge fan of Raven.
Yeah, so she's angry, she's annoyed, and thankfully they get out. Professor Benjamin comes in while they are being caught by the dry cleaner, and he says he found Tanya's assignment, and so, even though he can't remember her name, he can remember that he found her assignment. He is so scatterbrained, he can't even remember why he walked into the dry cleaners. It's absurd. Yeah. But because he found the assignment, they're like, oh, so you won't be needing this anymore. So they take the letter, they get away with it. While all of this is happening, Stanley is also at the Baxter house. Raven's having Corey hang out with him. But they start to play ping pong because there's a ping pong table downstairs, and Stanley starts winning everyone's stuff. He plays Eddie, he wins his shoes. He plays Victor, he wins his ping pong trophy. And then he plays Chelsea, and she wins everything back because it turns out vegetarian camp was in China, and so she's really good at ping pong, which I have thoughts about. That was a lot of plot. What are your initial thoughts? Because I've got plenty.
My initial thoughts are, I don't know about side plot on this episode, but the main plot I actually think is hilarious, because how many times growing up have your parents told you to do something and what you remember is blah, 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 blah. So it is very accurate. Sometimes just like what comes in what comes in your brain, you just let it go out the other ear, because you're like, I don't have time for you today, parent. I'm 15 and I have 47 other important things to do other than listening to you. So I liked that. Also, when Raven is like, basically she gets into like a big trench coat style jacket that's hanging on the rack in the dry cleaners, and she like fully buttons herself into it. It's really funny. And she's like going around and around. The only thing where I was like, come on, is like she has access to her hands. Her hands are not stuck. She has access to them. She could just unbutton herself out and get out. I feel like she acts like she's fully stuck hanging there. And I feel like she could have gotten out of it.
Maybe because of the hanger or something?
Yeah, or because her arms are in the sleeves. Like, how is she going to pull her arm out of the sleeves while hanging there? I don't... Yeah. But it just seems slightly unrealistic.
I mean, it's unrealistic that the jacket didn't rip.
Well, fair point.
But it's really funny. And I think this is probably one of the Hive rerun episodes, because I seem to recall it quite well. Not the B plot so much, but the dry cleaners is quite an iconic moment.
Yep.
And the dry cleaning lady is played by Grammy Award-winning singer Macy Gray. I don't know if did you look that up before, Jess?
I did not look that up before, but I knew that she seemed very familiar.
So she seemed really familiar when I was watching it, and I looked it up. Do you know who Macy Gray is?
No.
Her most famous song, which won her Grammy, is called I Try. I try to say goodbye and I choke. Try to walk away and I stumble. Yeah. So she's that singer. Okay. So it's another one of those big guest stars, and she has acted in other things. She's so funny. She has excellent comedic timing.
Yeah. And she was good.
Her raspy voice really lends itself to it as well.
Yeah.
I adored her, and
I thought she played the character really, really well.
And it's one of those things where, like, whereas James Avery was the big shot in the previous episode, a lot of these big guest stars that come in really just kind of like are there for like a weird side role that like isn't that big a deal, but she like made it her own.
I also wonder if it's one of those things where they're like, we can get these bigger names if we give them side roles where like they only have to commit one day on set for so many hours compared to something that would take a little bit more time.
Oh, and also at the end, I think the repercussion is Raven has to like do hours at the dry cleaners or something.
Yeah.
She ends up riding a bike up the hill and saying, "Why do we have to live on the steepest hill in San Francisco?"
Yeah.
I do think that mixing up the envelopes wasn't really Raven's fault because that was confusing.
No, I disagree. Tanya specifically said on the counter. And it's written in large, all capital letters in Sharpie for Professor Benjamin.
But then the other letter had his name on it. So if you walk in and you only see, it wasn't like she looked at both and was like, which one? It was like she just walked in, saw one. Saw his name on it.
She had her popcorn bucket over the other one.
Yeah, like if I saw his name on it, I would assume it was for him.
Yeah, I do think that Tanya maybe shouldn't have wrote, because she was never going to mail that letter, so she didn't need to write the name on it. But she did clearly state on the kitchen counter, and it was like a larger envelope. It was clearly more of an assignment. Like, what assignment is fitting in that tiny little white envelope?
Fair.
You know? And I think it really lends itself to, like, yes, Raven made this mistake, but she made this mistake because she wasn't listening.
I also, my other notes are about the B plot. Do we have any other notes about the A plot?
No.
Okay. It's just a fun, relatable plot where it's a low stakes episode.
Yeah.
The B plot, bananas, like a little bit. Vegetarian camp was in China. It was not something like that confused me on all sorts of levels because it's generally like, I don't know. I don't even really want to touch that. But my main note about the B plot is that I think Orlando Brown really hit his stride in season 3. He just keeps getting funnier as season 3 goes for me. And in this one, it's that his shoes get taken. And I literally wrote down the quote, "and I get my shoes." I could not tell you what the delivery was. I can just tell you, like, that line was clearly, it just seems like a very plain line now that it's in my notes. But I can tell you he delivered it hilariously because he keeps, like, hitting those beats.
Yeah, he definitely is like one with the character in this season.
Otherwise, I don't care about the B plot. But I did kind of remember it. I was like, as it was going on, I was like, isn't Chelsea gonna beat him?
Yeah. Also, I just like don't know why there couldn't have just been vegetarian camp, and that was like strange enough. But like then to add where, I don't know, it just seemed unnecessary.
Yeah, because the whole thing was Chelsea was like, well, I was always the best player at vegetarian camp. And they're like, what does that even mean? And then she goes, vegetarian camp was in China. Yeah. Anywho. That just seems like a racial stereotyping that we aren't really equipped to fully delve into. But note that we recognize it as a racial stereotyping that maybe they really didn't need.
Correct.
To button down on in that way. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Episode 5. We went from low stakes, no stakes to pretty high stakes.
High stakes.
Yeah. Episode 5, 5-finger discount.
This episode has like a lot of kind of weird moving parts. But essentially, Raven is kind of taking responsibility for Corey and making sure he gets up in the morning and he gets dressed and gets to school and then he comes home from school on time and things like that, because Tanya is in law school and she doesn't have as much time as before, so the kids are expected to, step it up a little. Corey's hanging out with new friends. They're at the mall after school, And these new friends, including one character named Daryl, teach him what the 5-finger discount is and really are like a negative influence on him and encourage him to steal, even though he's like, I don't need anything from this store. Like, why would I steal it? I don't need it. And so because he feels pressured, he steals this really creepy monkey keychain.
It kind of reminds me of the monkeys in Kim Possible. Like the bad guy that's part monkey, and there's like the jungle monkeys. Yeah.
Yes, that's a very, very good comparison. And so he gets home. Raven kind of calls him out because she's like, where have you been? You're late from getting home from school. And he runs up to his room and he puts the monkey keychain away, out of sight, out of mind, in a drawer so he doesn't have to think about it, and shuts the drawer. He wakes up in the middle of the night and he hears the monkey toy, and he can the drawer's shaking, and he can see that it's he's dreaming, but he can see that it's trying to escape. And then the drawer opens up and the monkey is giant, like a huge angry monkey in his room. He's having a nightmare, so it wakes Raven up, and instead of being a good sister, she's super insensitive, and she's like, shut the fuck up, I'm trying to sleep, essentially. Eventually, Corey's having these nightmares. He's really upset about this, and he kind of is like, can I trust you? And Raven's like, yes, you can tell me anything. And he ends up telling Raven that he stole it.
And she blows up.
She freaks out. And she really drills into him that he could go to jail. This is also connected to Tanya. She's studying different cases right now, and she was speaking about a case she was studying that was about stealing and what happened with that. So then Raven's really drilling into Corey that he could go to jail. Raven has a vision that Corey steals again, and so she runs to the mall to try to prevent this from happening. And so she dresses up.
She has a vision of a security guard with no face stopping Corey from stealing something, or catching something. Corey stealing something.
Yes.
Which I think is important to note for how it progresses, but continue.
Yeah. No, you are right. And so Raven dresses up as a security guard to try to teach him and his friends a lesson. And so she can see that Corey's starting to get pressured into stealing, and him and Daryl are standing at the watches. And this is when Raven's vision comes true, and it's Raven dressed up as the security guard that's like, gotcha, and kind of stops Corey, and all of his friends completely do not have his back and are like, it wasn't us, it was him, blah blah blah. And Raven is like, not so fast. I'm not letting you guys all off the hook for this too. Even though at this point Corey had not stolen anything, and at this point in her mind, this is when Raven realizes that she is the security guard in her vision. And so the actual security guard shows up and tells them all to put their hands up, and Raven does too, and her pants fall down. I just wanted to mention that because Disney, especially in That's So Raven, whenever there's these heavier episodes, they have to lighten it up with something hilariously ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And so the actual security guard makes all the kids empty their pockets, and Corey is the only one whose pocket is empty. The rest of the kids are pulling out keychains and yo-yos and all these little knickknacks. And so it's kind of the lesson of do not steal, but also don't be pressured by your friends and stuff like that. And it kind of just ends with, I feel like Corey gets off the hook, and then the rest of the kids, their parents have to be called to tell them what they did.
Mm-hmm. This is the first time Corey is the A plot.
Yeah.
And Raven and Chelsea and Eddie are the B plot.
Yeah, and Raven gets wrapped up into Corey's A plot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Chelsea and Eddie are drinking a bunch of sodas to win a mystery prize contest. And Chelsea wins it.
Raven has a vision that they're going to win it. And then Chelsea wins it.
And then Chelsea wins it. And then they decide they're going to share the prize and take turns with it. And Raven's turn was first, but then she had to leave to go save Corey from stealing again. And so then they end up taking turns with the prize first. And Raven is the one who's going to have the prize last. But then the prize ends up like running away or getting away. And we never find out what the prize is.
Yeah. It's never clearly stated. The Wikipedia summary says that it's most suggested to be a mechanical pet. I thought that it was more like a car or an electric scooter. Because it's like, I know that it's electric or metal because it shouldn't get wet, but it kind of like rolls down the hill. I like that you never find out, though. I think it's a really cute like touch.
Sure.
So this episode is like the other Miranda episode, not the there's two Miranda episodes of Lizzie McGuire because Miranda gets the heavy topics because yeah. So there's the one where she's not shoplifting and Lizzie and a security guard accuses her of shoplifting and Lizzie sides with him.
Yes.
This is like that episode done better. I mean, I guess that was like a kind of fair, but in this one, he actually does shoplift. Yes, it's a very small thing, but that's usually how it starts as kids. I had friends who shoplifted. Not a lot, but they just did like small stuff like this from a major chain store because they wanted attention. I don't know. I don't know if they did it well or not. I can't point my finger on that.
I think what they nailed well in this episode, truly, is the feelings of peer pressure. Because the whole time Corey is doing it, you can tell he doesn't want to do it. There's not an ounce of him that is doing it because he wants to do it. He really, really feels pressure to fit in with the cool kids and to get some sort of like rapport with them. And so that's why he chooses to steal the keychain. He doesn't want to. He goes and returns it himself. So I think it really captures that well, that it's like if there are people in your life pressuring you to do something you don't want to do, those probably aren't good people for you to be hanging out with. And that like starts at that age, right? But it really leads up into adult life where it's like you have to learn who has toxic character traits and who you're like, maybe not someone I want to be giving my time and energy to. And so I think that's the lesson that they really nail in this episode for Corey.
And this is also true to the experience that I think a lot of things like shoplifting or like illegal or immoral stuff you start doing because of peer pressure.
Yeah.
I want to point out that the friends, there's like 5 of them, but the 2 main ones that have speaking roles are played by Christopher Massey, who was Michael in Zoe 101, and he's Kyle Massey's older brother.
Oh.
And Cody Lindley, who is Jake in Hannah Montana.
Ryan. Yeah. Miley Cyrus's boyfriend.
Before the other guy comes along.
Yeah. But he's in quite a few episodes.
Of Hannah Montana?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a line where one of them says, "I'm cooler than cool. I'm ice cold." I was like, okay, outcast. Like, but ultimately, like, okay, also in the intro is one of these clips of Raven before she dresses up as the security guard. She sticks her face in a bunch of puppets. And it's very, very memorable because it's put in the intro. My takeaway from this, though, was ultimately that, like, Raven should have gotten into more trouble than the kids because she was impersonating a security guard.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But also, like, anytime Raven dresses up into a costume, this feels very Plumber episode-esque. Like, she should always get in more trouble than she actually does.
Yeah, I think there's 2 levels. There's the this is ridiculous but acceptable, and this is ridiculous and unacceptable. And in there we've got the plumber, the security guard, and the wedding.
Yeah. The wedding was like
Another level.
Yeah. It's like, I can't believe that I'm watching this. I never want to have to watch this again. It made me so upset. Where these, I'm like, oh, Raven really shouldn't be getting away with this, but it made me less upset. Anything else?
Not really. I just think that it was like slightly better done than Lizzie McGuire, but
I agree with that. And I think the focus on this one I liked because it really did feel like a focus on like new friend groups and the pressure of that and how do you navigate that and stuff like that. Like it didn't feel fully, even though the 5-finger discount was the focus, it felt like it was touching other things that like that 10, 11, that 4th, 5th, 6th grade are really tough years where a lot of these things come up. So I thought it felt very appropriate.
yeah. And in season 3, a lot of the episodes are outlandish, and some of them conversely feel more grounded.
Yeah.
Like what we're going to talk about with Jareyou, episode 10, True Colors, and also like this episode, I think. It's not, this time's not about race the way that but some of the other episodes are.
Yep.
But it does feel grounded in
Definitely
reality.
Yep. I completely agree. I think it's done very, very well.
Okay. Next
Episode
one.
7, Double Vision.
Not grounded in reality at all.
Not grounded in reality. However, heavy on the reruns. I really remember this episode. Also, I kind of love this episode. I just think it's so much fun.
Okay, do you want to do the summary then?
Yes. Chelsea has a crush on Ben from her history class. And Chelsea is like planning some sort of vegetarian club fundraiser. And so Raven gets a vision that Ben tries to kiss her and tells Eddie, and Eddie's like, what the hell, just don't kiss Ben.
I really love that this is Eddie's solution all the time. Whenever she has a vision of herself doing something bad, he's like, well, just don't do it.
I know, it's like, clearly that never works, Eddie. It always happens.
But he's also not wrong. Like,
sure. And so he's like, you need to be avoiding Ben. Like, just don't spend time with him. That cannot happen. And so Raven has another vision of like this girl in the hallway getting trampled by a bunch of people running through the hall. So she's like running to go like pull this girl out, and Ben also does the same thing. And they both have this moment where like we both helped someone and we both knew that something was going to happen prior to it happening. And so they kind of end up sharing with each other that they're both psychic. And Ben tells Raven, no one else knows. Like, I haven't told anyone else. And Raven's like, not even your friends and family? Like, she's shocked because she's like, you need to have people in your life that you trust to know this information. And so they both get a vision and they share a hug. This is important. They share a hug when he shares this information with her because it's kind of, it's very personal. And so they share a hug. And while they share the hug, they realize that this makes their vision stronger and connected. And so they both get a vision that the vegetarian fundraiser is a disaster. And so, connected, getting ready for the fundraiser, Eddie runs into Rainbow, who is the artist that Chelsea secured, and she's a big name, and everyone's excited about her, and she's going to perform. And Rainbow needs a quiet space to meditate and prepare for her performance. And so Eddie shows her this supply closet and is like, will this work? And Rainbow's like, this is perfect. And like Eddie shuts the door behind him. I don't know why. And they get stuck in the supply closet. The door won't open. They don't know how to get out. They're both stuck in the supply closet. And Rainbow turns from this, I need to meditate, very peaceful person to like, she's going crazy. She feels trapped. Everything is falling apart. And so Chelsea, I think she sees Raven hug Ben and she's really upset about this. And it kind of comes up, and Chelsea finds out that Ben is also psychic, and they have a moment where they admit that they have a crush on each other. And so Raven and Ben tell Chelsea, like, hey, you need to know that this fundraiser is going to be a disaster. We both had a vision about it, but we don't know what else is happening. So they're like, we have to hug so we have a stronger vision. And then they hug and they're like, Rainbow and Eddie are trapped, but we don't know where our vision is fuzzy. So then Raven's like, we're going to have to kiss to make our vision stronger.
She's like, I know what we have to do.
Yes. And so cute. I love that she does this. Chelsea pops her little body in front of Raven. Chelsea's like, okay, I understand. But then she like pops her little body in front of Raven and like totally goes and kisses Ben. And they're like, Chelsea, this is not what we meant. She's like, I know, but I just wanted to kiss him first.
Yeah.
So they kiss, their vision is strong, they see them trapped in the supply closet, and so they go and try to save Eddie and Rainbow and save this fundraising show. So then Raven dresses up to be Rainbow's opening act, and she dresses up as Sunshine. And then they find her, and the show is saved, and it's a very just like cute, playful episode. Meanwhile, realistic, really good side plot. Corey has a crush on Cindy, who we get a few episodes in this season, and asks her to, she's coming over, they're studying, they're spending time together, and so he asks her to be his girlfriend. And she agrees, but she's like, in order to make it official, we have to kiss. Because that's what she learned from her older siblings, that's to have an official boyfriend, you have to share a kiss. And Corey's super nervous because this is going to be his first kiss. She's coming over the next day at 3. He's like preparing, doing mint strips, making out with a pillow, like trying to figure it out. And so he ends up sharing this moment with Victor, and Victor's like, oh, you're nervous. You can just share that with her. Like, you don't need to do anything you don't want to do. And so Corey shares with Cindy that it's his first kiss and he's really nervous. She's like, oh my God, thank you for saying that. It's mine too. I'm also very nervous. Like, we don't have to do this. But then they end up sharing a little peck, and it was like a very cute moment. We had a lot of kissing in this episode.
Yeah, we did.
Sorry that was a lot, but I just feel like it was a big...
No, I'm glad you kept going. Well, I mean... It was a lot, but it was a lot. Like, you had to get through it all. And I'm glad you did it instead of me, because I would have forgotten a lot of it. This is another one where I think Eddie was really on his comedic timing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was fun. Rainbow was played by Caitlin Crosby, who was mostly a singer, songwriter, not a huge deal, but was in a couple things. Ben is played by Travis Van Winkle, who is now like more of a proper actor. I haven't really seen him in much, but I know he's in the 3rd season of You.
So he's like 90210, Happy Endings, Two Broke Girls, You. He's on a lot of stuff. But if you're a Hallmark Christmas movie fan, you definitely know Travis Van Winkle because he is in quite a few Hallmark Christmas movies. He is I wouldn't say like up there as one of the top Hallmark go-tos, but he normally does at least one movie for them a year. So if you're a big Hallmark original movie fan, you definitely know Travis Van Winkle. That's what I knew him for. I saw him and I was like, I think that's Travis Van Winkle.
And it was.
It was.
I really liked when there was a really funny moment where Raven was trying to like explain to Chelsea that Raven and Ben like know about a lot about each other or something. She was like trying to hide that Ben's a psychic, but explain their relationship so that Chelsea could understand it. And Chelsea says, does he also know about your extra? And Raven cuts her off. And I'm like, your extra what?
I feel like it either is a toe or a nipple. What else do you have extras of?
Yeah, it's gotta be something like that, right?
Because what else do people have extras of?
It could be a non-bodily thing. But that's the implication.
The implication is that it's bodily.
But it's a throwaway line that really threw me because I need to know more. I need this explained.
For sure.
This could turn into its own episode. But like overall, I really like that there's another psychic aside from the Sleevemore Institute. And I kind of just want to know, like, what's the makeup? What's the percentage of psychics in the world?
Yeah. And I would like to know, like, why are their visions stronger
when they're together?
And why do they only have the same vision? All of their visions are connected.
When they're together.
Yeah. But even, like, when they save that girl from the, like, stampede in the hallway.
Yeah. Raven's visions are always triggered by something. So he must have also been triggered somehow. Because it's like, I would hope he's not having all the visions Raven's having that are like all of her friends and family.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Like, that'd be a dead giveaway. Yeah. Like, oh, Raven must be a psychic.
Yeah. Also, I like that. Well, and clearly he admits he does have other visions because, like, he says something about liking Chelsea, and Chelsea's like, oh my god, I like you too. And he's like, yeah, I know.
Well, couldn't he have overheard?
I think he says something along the lines like, yeah, I know I'm a psychic. Like, he does imply that it's because he's psychic. I do like the moment, even though it's brief, with him and Raven, where Raven's like, you haven't told anyone else. And she really tells him, she's like, you gotta have people you trust and tell them this. Like, this is not information that you can just keep yourself. And I think that's, like, Amanda and I haven't mentioned this, but I think this is something that really grounds Raven. Because she's living in this alternate reality, but because she has people who believe her and know that she's a psychic and trust her visions and listen to her, it kind of helps her manage it. Even though she has problems with being a psychic and this causes issues in relationships, she does have people who trust her and help her work through that, where, like, to not have that would be really hard. So I like that she's like, Ben, you need to tell people.
Yeah.
You know?
We only touched on it at the beginning in that I like that they all know automatically. There's no big revelation.
Yeah.
It's just accepted.
Yeah.
It kind of is similar to in Wizards of Waverly Place, Daryl Sabera, who is also Junie Cortez in Spy Kids. He has a reoccurring guest role on Wizards. You might remember him for saying, I'll show you blah blah as his like reverse insult, but he's another wizard who goes to her school and he doesn't have friends and doesn't really know, or people don't know that he's a wizard, and he's also like brainwashed his parents though. But anyway, it kind of like has similar vibes to that of like finding out there's more of you in your real world, except Alex Russo can't take anything seriously, and Raven Baxter, despite her ridiculous antics, has a lot more humanity in her.
Yeah. I think that's what makes her such a great character and makes this show so good, is she feels very grounded for having things that feel so ungrounded, like being a psychic, like her costumes. But she is very real in the way she approaches certain situations, so she just feels extremely relatable.
Sometimes she's real dumb.
Well, yeah, aren't we all?
True. Sometimes she really crosses a line, like the wedding.
Yes.
But that also, it just makes those moments that much more infuriating because you know that she was raised right.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're like, Raven, what the hell are you getting up to?
Okay, episode 9.
Yeah, the big buzz.
So, superlatives are coming around and best dressed is going to be awarded, and Raven nearly gets this every year but is always beat out by someone who comes in at the last minute, even though Raven's been designing her own outfits since she was in 3rd grade. And so she's really stressed about it, and she seeks the advice of the school guidance counselor, who is a nervous Nelly, shy, mousy little thing. And she similarly always enters a farm. What's the vegetable? Is it tomatoes?
Zucchini.
Zucchini.
Nope.
A zucchini growing competition. And she always gets 2nd place, and because other farms have bigger ones. And Raven kind of helps the guidance counselor to be more confident by dressing more confident and to embrace herself. And Raven also tries to back herself more in the competition. And she makes, I don't know how it was inspired, but she makes this beautiful gown of flowers. B plot, Chelsea
I would
tells...
say it's a C plot, but yes.
Okay. C plot, Chelsea convinces Eddie that the beekeeping club only has girls in it, and so he should join. So he does. And they both kind of get into it.
Yeah, they love it.
They actually, like, he seems to enjoy it a lot more than I thought he would.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the bees get out, but how do they get out?
We don't really know how the bees get out, except that, like, they're in the hallway, the bees come through, and Chelsea was like, Eddie, you were supposed to close the door after you. And then they're, like, running, chasing the bees. So it is implied that Eddie didn't close some sort of door to something, and that's how the bees got out.
Okay, and the bees are chasing Raven through the school because she has a dress made out of flowers.
Yeah.
And that, like, destroys it. I should have also mentioned before the flower dress, a new girl came down. She's like the daughter of a celebrity, maybe even the daughter of a fashion designer, and she comes to school in a helicopter the day before Best Dressed is going to be awarded.
Yep.
So
Jordache Hilltopper. And a daughter of a world-famous fashion designer.
There you go. And so Raven's like, I'm not going to win this. I'm going to win this. Makes this beautiful dress, gets chased through the school by these bees, ruins the ceremony. And then she finally, like, they get the bees under control. Somehow. The dress is destroyed. And she...
somehow they get all the bees under control except for one bee that Chelsea can't find. And, like, Raven runs into the pool, I think is good to mention, which is why...
Forgot.
That's why her dress gets ruined. Because she jumps into a pool with a dress made of fresh flowers from her mom's garden.
So she walks into the ceremony again, dripping wet, looking awful.
With a robe.
And she's like, thanks for waiting for me, guys. And Senorita Rodriguez hovers her hand over the new girl. Because this is apparently how they vote for Best Dressed. And people clap. And then she hovers her hand over Raven. And people clap way more. They're so enthused. And she's about to be awarded. She finally won. And then as Senorita Rodriguez goes to get the award, her hand hovers over the guidance counselor, who's now an absolute
it's the pesky
babe.
bee. The pesky bee. The one bee that Chelsea could not catch is over Mrs. Morano's head. And so she is trying to like shoo it away, and while she's shooing it away, her hand ends up over her.
And everyone claps really loudly for her. And so Senorita Rodriguez awards the guidance counselor the best dressed award. And then at the end, Chelsea and Raven are watching the guidance counselor on the farming festival event on TV, and she also wins that. So she's having a great year.
Yeah. That zucchini is the fakest fucking painted piece of foam or plastic I have ever seen in my life. It is so fake. They didn't even try to make it look real.
Yeah. Kind of like the guac removal.
Yeah.
What do you think is the B plot then? Because I in Wikipedia thought that Chelsea and the beekeeping was the B plot.
No, that is the C plot. The B plot is Tanya tells Victor not to forget about the big day Saturday. And Victor's like, oh, fuck, what the fuck is the big day? And so he's like, Corey, I'm going to up your allowance to figure out what the big day is. And so Corey goes and asks Tanya, and Tanya's like, ask your dad, he'll know all about it. And so then he goes to Victor and is like, I don't know, she said to ask you. And so Victor buys her a gift because he's like, if it's the big day, I'm going to buy her a gift. He's like, I'm going to hide the gift in the bread box because she's doing like a gluten-free diet right now and she's not eating bread. She'll never find it here. Well, she found a really great gluten-free bread. So she goes to make herself toast, opens up the bread box, voila, finds the gift and is like, oh my God, what did your dad get me a gift for? Like, we're just polishing the floors on Saturday. So like, I don't know why he would get me a gift. I must be forgetting something. So then she goes and gets him a gift, and she also is like, Corey, go figure out why your dad got me a gift. I'll up your allowance. And so they both kind of have this moment where they're like, what is the big day? And they exchange gifts, and then they realize that they both upped Corey's allowance, and they also realize that they both have been giving Corey an allowance.
And that there wasn't anything that day.
It was just polishing the floors.
Yeah. But they gave each other gifts because they both thought, yeah. I really liked that Tanya got a card that was like, on our big day.
Yeah.
The B plot was cute. You're right.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't trying to be like, that's not the B plot, but it wasn't.
No, I clearly did not remember this episode that well as I was summarizing it. Like, I thought that I was good to go, and then I kept forgetting stuff.
No, it was good.
I know at one point, Raven said, yep, that's me.
Yeah.
Which she does in the theme song, so I made note of it.
Yeah, it's cute.
The guidance counselor is played by Susan Lucci, who is best known as Erica Kane on All My Children. Erica Kane is largely remembered as the most famous soap opera character in daytime TV, and Susan Lucci played her for the entire run from 1970 to 2011, which is a long-ass time to play the same character. And I found that so interesting because this is when they really threw in for the parents, because I would not have.
Yep.
Like, I had no idea who she was. I literally am just looking up every single person who's in every episode now because they're all so big. Like, as soon as I hit Macy Gray, I was like, fuck, like, I'm really gonna have to pay attention while I watch this season.
Yeah.
And this was another one where I was like, I have no idea who this person is, but she's actually huge.
Yeah, she's huge. I knew her because my grandma's a big soap opera person. So I recognized her because my grandma watched All My Children. So then I knew her from there. So like I was aware of who she was, but I think a lot of people who were my age watching it probably weren't. And it was a throwout more for the grandparents and the parents watching it. But she was like a very, very popular 80s and 90s actress. And then obviously continued in All My Children through 2011. But she was a busy actress, you know, she had work.
She was the highest paid actress in daytime TV for a while.
Wow.
She was making like $1 million a year, which doesn't sound like that much, but for daytime TV, that's good.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like they're not growing these flowers in San Francisco.
Really?
Like, did you see how many flowers Tanya had? And all those flowers that she made, I'm like, San Francisco's a very, very not sunny, cloudy, constantly foggy environment where people's backyards are the size of my pinky fingernail. That I'm like, where is she growing all these flowers?
I don't know.
I guess we did see their backyard in that one episode with the goat, and it was pretty big.
But it also didn't really have a garden
It
in
didn't.
that, unless it's even bigger.
It didn't.
Or she got into gardening.
Yeah, that part confused me. Also, how do the bees get safe back in the hive? Like we both mentioned, they mention, oh yeah, all the bees are back safe except for that one pesky bee. But like, how? We don't know how they got them back in there. And the bees are so unrealistic. It's just like a swarm of black dots that like over the screen.
Yeah.
But it just like swooshes over the screen. It's like they didn't even try.
Also, what school has beekeeping as an option? Like, I think
The
it's really cool.
The school has a lot of weird, like the cheese was for a club, like the Italian cooking club or something.
I think, doesn't Chelsea convinces Eddie to join too because she needs another person or they're going to close it, right?
I don't know about that. I just know she really focused on the girls. It's all girls.
I do like that he joined, and I like that they got into it, and like I kind of want to keep some bees because I'm really into the environment. So it's fun.
We need more people to keep bees.
Yeah. So okay. And
wait, I have one more problem which you kind of mentioned, but I think we need to talk about more. What type of voting is all in favor of blah blah blah, cheer. All in favor of this person, cheer. All she does is put her hand over the person. Like,
it's really flawed because if the people cheering are just extra loud at like one point, you know what I mean?
Completely flawed.
Yeah.
It's
like, lazy.
This is how all of them are voted? Yeah, I just could not believe that was how they did their voting.
Didn't they show someone being awarded something right before that was like really stupid?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but yeah.
Yeah. It's some like, it was like a couple of like rock goth guys or like best hair on a guy or something, and they had like ridiculous hairstyles that were like sticking up in places.
Oh, I did see that, and I thought, this is ridiculous, but also like 10th grade Jessica would have been all over that. Also 9th grade Jessica, I was in geometry as a 9th grader, and most of the people in my class were sophomores and juniors. And there was one guy who was a junior that had a mohawk that was like in 3 parts, and it was very, very obnoxious, and I had a huge crush on him, and he was as dumb as actual rocks. I just loved him and his mohawk, and he only came in maybe 3 days a week, but every single time he came in the class really made my day, and he sat right behind me.
That's so cute.
And so seeing those boys with the crazy hair, I was like, oh my god, me in high school would totally have a crush on that.
I was the opposite in that my boyfriend at the time, which we were long distance, so it wasn't a big deal, he had a mohawk. I don't like mohawks, and I don't like kind of, I don't know. I just, it's not my jam, the crazy hairstyles. But he had one, but I was like, well, I guess it's a good thing that you live in Canada.
Yeah. I don't have to deal with it all the time.
Yeah.
And now, to finish off the last 3 episodes that we will be covering this podcast episode, we have a special guest joining us, Amanda's work colleague, Jareyou.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here because That's a Raven is my favorite Disney Channel show. Yeah, that and the Proud Family.
Those are both really good ones. Did you grow up watching them,
Mm-hmm.
or did you watch mostly reruns?
I grew up watching them. Like me and my sisters, we'd like always be ready for a new episode right in front of the TV, 8/7 Central,
Yep.
all that.
I love that.
I have a question, Jareyou. You're turning 25, right?
Yeah.
So, are you 97?
Yeah, 97.
So, do you identify as a millennial or a Gen Z? Or the zillennial?
I don't like the term zillennial because it sounds gross.
It
It
does.
doesn't roll off the tongue,
No.
but I guess that's what I am because I do know things that happened in the 90s because a lot of my siblings were born in the 90s. My brother was born in 86 and he was like going to high school and middle school and everything like that. And because he was so much older than all of us, he forced us to watch certain things that he wanted to watch and just listen to certain music, whatever. We were around his friends. Yeah. But yeah, I'm definitely not fully Gen Z.
But not fully
But like a
millennial.
little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that makes sense. My younger sibling was born 96 and has very similar feelings to you where like they don't feel fully millennial, but they don't feel Gen Z, so they use the zillennial term as well, even though I agree it does sound gross.
I just find it interesting because we're only 3 years older, but I feel like solidly a
Yeah, me too.
millennial.
Me too.
Okay, so let's get into episode 10, True Colors. This is like a massive episode, I feel
Yes.
like. I don't think Disney's ever made anything like this before and again.
No, I'd be curious. I'd also be curious if there was anything like in any of the cartoon series that were similar to this, but at least for this style of television. Yeah, like the Proud Family or something, if they did an episode that was similar. But other than that, I don't think they've ever done anything like this.
Yeah. I think the Proud Family had like an episode that was kind of like very much like this is our Black History Month episode. And then there was like a movie that I cannot remember, but there was a foreign exchange student from like South Africa.
The Color of Friendship.
Yes.
Yes.
But TV show wise, I don't think so. I don't think there was like a lot.
Yeah.
Which is why it was like, it felt so big. I was like, well, this is cool. But growing up, I went to a charter school in Harlem, and like all the kids were basically Black. They taught us a lot about Black history, definitely taught us a lot about like the Harlem Renaissance and everything like that. So I guess like looking back now, I'm like, wow, a lot of people did not grow up knowing this. So for Disney Channel to go ahead and like educate people about this was really big. And even like Corey, when he has his little like dream sequence and his dad dressed up as Frederick Douglass pops out of the computer. And then his mom as like Bessie Coleman and just everyone bringing them all out. It was just very big.
Yeah. I guess we should summarize the episode before we get more into the details.
Let's do it.
No, you're great. You're great. Jess, do you want to do it?
Sure. So the episode opens up with Victor and Tanya cooking food, soul food for Black History Month. And Corey's down there and he's saying how he has to write a report on Black history. And
he doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to. And Victor kind of reads the report that he has written. And it just has a lot of like, so. And like very, 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 like a lot of just filler words. And Victor's like, this is important. You need to take this seriously. Like you're going to write an actual report. And so Corey falls asleep while writing his report. And Frederick Douglass, who is played by the character that, is played by Victor, shows up on his screen, and then he like presses the escape button and he he like pops out of the screen onto his desk. And it kind of is this weird dream sequence, as you mentioned, where Corey's learning about Black history in order to write a report. At the same time, Chelsea and Raven are applying for jobs at their like favorite clothing store, Sassy's. And so they both apply and they go through these like series of tasks and tests as an interview, and Raven nails it. She like folds the clothes perfectly. She helps this woman find this great outfit for her, and Chelsea sucks. Like, she just sucks. She's not good at it. And Chelsea gets the job and Raven doesn't. And Raven's a little confused by that, and then she gets a vision where the manager at Sassy's, Chloe, says that she doesn't hire Black people. And so Raven brings this up to Eddie and Chelsea, and they get like a local news reporter in San Francisco to come to the store where they all go undercover to try to get Chloe to say this on camera, so they can expose Chloe as a racist. And so Raven dresses up as like the new general manager of Sassy's and has like a mustache and a bald cap and like the full 9 yards in total. Like, Raven very similar to how Raven always goes very extravagant in her costumes. And Eddie pretends to apply for a position there, and Chloe kind of pulls Chelsea aside and says, I don't hire Black people. And Chloe ends up getting fired, and they're able to expose her for this. But it really does get into like, and which I'm sure we'll talk about more, but it does get into like the feelings that Raven feels going through this experience.
So that's the plot. I feel like it's the only time we really see discrimination in Disney Channel content besides maybe the color of friendship, because usually if they talk about like differences, I know they talk about being gay or having panic attacks in some shows, but it's usually like it's all about the positives and like people accepting them, and you don't usually see like the real world situation played out, which I found really like interesting that they took that step. I think it's important, but I'm also a white person, so I don't know how qualified I am to talk on that.
Yeah, I want to be like, and I know Amanda and I are want to be careful. I don't want to say hesitant. That's not the right word, but we want to be careful in how we approach this, and respectful in how we approach this, because we are both white women. So I would love to know your thoughts, but also don't want to put that pressure on you. But I do want to mention that until you get to the plot line of them bringing in the news reporter and all of that, the word racism or racist isn't mentioned. They use prejudice, they use discrimination, and then it's not until that point where Tanya, the news reporter, do call this woman out as being a racist. But I did find it interesting that Disney waited up until that point, and they were using, for lack of a better term, kinder words like discrimination and prejudice, even though the whole episode was about racism.
I did not notice that. But that was a great point.
Yeah, I really was paying attention to that, because I was like, they kept using like discrimination and prejudice and things like that. And I was like, are we going to actually call this woman out for what she is? Because like, it's pretty obvious. And finally they did. If they didn't, I would have, I definitely would have wrote that down. But eventually they do call her out for being a racist.
Yeah. It's even just rare for them to say I'm Black on Disney Channel sometimes. Like, I feel like they're more like people like me is a phrase I hear more often in like content made for kids when they're trying to talk about skin tone or ethnicity or something like that. So, but like at the very beginning, this is so unapologetically about race that Raven's leaving for her her job interview weird thing, which by the way, no one in retail does that. But she's leaving and she's like, well, I'm Black and I'm history, and walks out the door, which I thought was so funny.
Yeah. You sent me a clip of that and you were like, have we ever heard anyone on any other Disney show be like this unapologetically I'm Black? And not that I know of. Especially for this being 2005 as well, is when this episode aired. And of course it aired in February.
I wonder if she had a hand in any of the writing to be like, okay, guys, like we haven't like said explicitly, yes, we are Black, but clearly we look Black, so we should say it in this episode. Because they also even like say like people of color, and I don't know why I thought I like didn't hear that phrase before, like growing up, but I guess just because like nowadays we just hear that term all the time. Yeah.
It's also kind of interesting to think about it now, because hasn't Raven said that she doesn't like the actress Raven-Symone? She said a few like controversial things about her heritage.
She's a little iffy, because even
you're being very nice.
I think it was like last year. Her she married a white woman, and her wife had these braids. I don't remember if they were like cornrows, if they were like box braids. And then her wife was like joking around saying like, "Oh, they're gonna cancel me now because I have these braids." And Raven's like, "Oh, they're not gonna cancel you. You're married to a Black woman. You can't be racist." And I was like,
"Oh, yeah."
Like you just missed it completely.
Yeah. She's also the same person that said she's from every continent in Africa.
Yeah.
Oh.
Every continent in Africa. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. But that said, she's done a lot, I feel like, for our generation, particularly when she was younger. And when I watched episodes like this and the one we're going to talk about next, I definitely was wondering who was in the writer's room, because I know that the creator of the show is a white man who created Hannah Montana as well. But I haven't looked into the writer's room that much. I would hope that they actually did have people of color, and particularly Black writers, for this stuff, because they handled it pretty well, I thought.
This is something that sometimes frustrates me. A lot of newer stuff on IMDb will list out like all the contributors and the main writer. But a lot of this older TV, you'll get like the main writer, but you won't get a list of who was in the writer's room and who else was contributing. But Michael Carrington was the writer for, I just found it here while you guys were chatting, was the writer for this episode, and he is a Black man.
Does anyone else have more thoughts on this episode before we move on?
My only other thing is I kind of felt at the end of the episode there was a slight tone from like Tanya and Victor of like, Raven, aren't you glad you stood up for yourself? And there's a slight tone of like, it's up to them to fix it. Like it's up to Black people and it's up to Raven and stuff for like standing up for herself, which obviously it's good that she did it, but I didn't really love the tone of like it's up to them to fix it, because like it's really up to people like me and Amanda to speak out about these things and to make sure people are educated and call people out when we see it. So that part kind of I wasn't a huge fan of.
Yeah, and then that definitely dismisses like the systemic part of racism, especially in America.
Yes.
And I guess all over the world too.
Yes.
Yeah. I was even on that note a little surprised and like, or like confused by what they were doing with Chelsea. I get that she served as like the ignorant white kid who didn't know what was going on, but at the same time, she's been friends with Raven and Eddie their whole lives, and they had to like explain what was happening to her. And she didn't really, like, she helped at the end, but she wasn't like calling people out. I don't know.
She wasn't calling people out, and like until they called her out and were like, you're not gonna go work for Chloe. Like, you're not going to go work at Sassy's. And she was, until they were like, no, you're not. And then she's like, oh yeah, you're right, I'm not. But it was them telling her, like, you're really going to do that? Like, she didn't even like think it through, which I know part of that is probably Chelsea being like the dumb friend of the three and them playing into that character trait. But I agree, it doesn't really fit in with them being friends for their entire life. Like, clearly conversations like this would have had to come up previously.
Yeah, it's weird that like she would have two Black best friends, and then that's like the first instance of racism that they've ever experienced. Like,
yeah,
a teacher didn't say anything weird or racist. Nothing happened in the hallways.
And Eddie even gives them a little story about like a childhood friend of his who stopped being his friend because he's Black. So like, it's not their first instance, Eddie and Raven's, of experiencing racism and knowing and identifying it as that. Chelsea, we needed more solidarity.
Yes. Yeah, we did. We needed a little more from solidarity. Chelsea.
Yeah. Less ditziness.
Also, just like kind of shout out to the dream sequence for Corey. We get a few more of these weird dream things throughout this season in particular, but it was just kind of fun. I thought it was a playful way to touch on Black history. Like, I thought it was kind of fun. And obviously they did that to lighten up the rest of the plot, whether that was fully necessary or not, but it was a clear choice that Disney made.
Yeah. And the bit where who is he? Eddie was playing the pianist. I don't remember his name, but he kept mentioning like, oh, I wasn't paid. And then he was like, oh, I bet the inventor of the stoplight also wasn't paid either. And it's like, that was an issue all those years ago and still an issue now. And as kids, we thought like, oh, like it's not that deep. Like, oh, maybe they got a little bit less than them. But then as like adults, like looking back at this, it's like, oh no, this is like a huge problem, and like not being credited for work. And because I was surprised they even like said like, oh, the man's music inspired like rock and everything like that, because sometimes people really like to forget that a lot of Black music inspired a lot of what some people would call quote unquote white music, even though everyone, like Black people, were making rock music too. So.
Yeah, influenced really all genres of music, and they did slip that in there.
They also said that Black people invented ice cream. A Black person invented ice cream, which I did not know until I watched this. And there's a fun little line in there about it. I learned a little bit about this, or from this. Yeah. I didn't know who Frederick Douglass was until I was in high school. So in some way, if you were watching this, I guess I was watching this when I came out, but I should have learned a lot more. I should have paid more attention. It was very informative.
Yeah, also I want to say, like, I remembered this episode, but I don't remember this episode as well as others, which makes me think it wasn't on the rerun schedule.
Oh, I'm sure it only came out in February.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure it just was reran every February.
Yeah.
Should we move on? I feel like we talked about that one a lot, which is good because it's like a really important episode, but...
Yeah. Episode 12, The Royal Treatment.
The Royal Treatment. There's a foreign exchange student from Africa named Tendaji. He comes from the fictional country of Shikobi. And he's being made fun of in school for wearing what looks like traditional clothing, and Raven sticks up for him. So then he gives her a feather, and she's like, okay, weird. Sure, it's a feather. And then she invites him to her house, and he brings her a seashell. And she's like, okay. Again, weird, whatever. Add it to my collection with my feather. And Chelsea's like making fun of her, like, oh, he has a crush on you, like you're probably his girlfriend now. And then sure enough, he brings her this like really fancy dress. And Eddie has a great line. Boy, if I was ever gonna wear a dress, like let Eddie wear a dress, people. She puts on the dress. The dress is for a big party, basically, that she's been invited to. So she goes there to the embassy where the party is happening, and we see some like quote unquote traditional dances because again, it's a fictional country. And she's like her feet are never supposed to touch the ground, and she's put on this fancy throne with a tiara. And I'm really wondering like what Raven thinks is going on right now, because they're not giving you a dress and inviting you to that place like if you're just his friend or even if you're just his girlfriend. And it turns out he is a prince. Tanya has done the research, and this is how you propose in Shikobi, is with a feather, a shell, and a dress. And she is now engaged. And so Chelsea and Eddie find this out from Tanya and put on the traditional like dance outfits and try to tell Raven during the ceremony to break it up. And she has to tell him that she's not ready for this marriage. Side plot is Corey's entered Lionel into a magazine photo contest, and Coach Tugnut from Even Stevens is this weird rat photographer, and he wins, and he's going to take him on a 2-year world tour. And then Corey's like, no, my best friend. And I just want to say rats only live for 2 years. So like, amazing, Lionel. Good for you. On first thought, watching this, it feels like it's kind of a parody of Coming to America to me, because it's a prince from a fictional African country, like going through this rush proposal to someone who is unknowing about the situation. And there also is Reginald Vell Johnson, who like most notably is Carl Winslow and in Family Matters, and Sergeant Al Powell in Die Hard. He plays the ambassador to Shikobi, I think, which like you see this a lot in season 3 of Raven. They just throw in these huge guest stars with like 3 lines. And gave me so much anxiety when I was watching this season, because I was just like, okay, who the fuck is that? Like, I need to look up everyone because I don't want to miss anyone.
Yeah.
I feel like that was like a gift for like parents watching with their kids, so then they can be like, oh my goodness, they have this person, and then their kids are like, who is that? Like, that doesn't matter if they didn't like watch the shows with their parents too. But
yeah,
I don't know, I liked it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, Carl Winslow.
It feels like a nod to the 90s and the progress that a lot of Black sitcoms led in media, like even just the way that Raven started out on the Cosby Show, and at the same time was Family Matters. And we have in another episode that you won't be talking about, Jareyou, we have the dad from Fresh Prince is in. So they throw in people. They also have white guest stars. Cyndi Lauper's in an episode as an art teacher, like for no reason. But it's very cool, and it feels a lot of times like they're paying homage. Macy Gray is in an episode as a dry cleaning lady. Like, it's bananas. I don't know why they got all these cool people, but it's like, I enjoy it.
Yeah. I do think it is like Disney learned. They started this not really in Even Stevens. I feel like they started it a little bit in Lizzie, and then really have like planted their roots in it in Raven, of like, let's give things for the parents. And this is something that Nickelodeon is known for doing really well, is throwing in jokes and throwing in not necessarily guest stars, but throwing in things to keep the parents entertained. And I think this was Disney's way of like, we know the parents are watching this, so let's give them something, you know?
I am very curious, Jareyou, not to put you on the spot, but
why would you put me on the spot?
I mean, I gave you the option and you chose to watch this episode and talk about it.
I know,
but
I'm just being annoying.
As the daughter of African immigrants, like, I'm curious as to how things like this read to you. Like, is this, because obviously it's not going to be perfect representation, but also it's a fictional country. Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like,
I like when I first like pressed play, I thought like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna like hate this. This is gonna be so cringy. But I didn't hate it. I liked it. I was like, okay, we usually don't like, yes, it is a fictional country, but getting African representation on the screen positively for the most part, um, in those years was very rare. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna take what I can get. And even like the Coming to America, it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah,
But
your expectations just you're like, if I don't expect anything, it's good.
but even like the comparisons to like Coming to America, um, obviously that too fictional country with fictional cultural practices and whatnot. But I still really enjoyed that and loved seeing. I guess Raven was very like into it. Yes, she was very clueless, but she was she was having her fun with it, and just like her sticking up for him in like the first like 5 minutes was also just showing people, okay, even if someone comes from a place where you might not know a lot about, you might not understand their clothing or their accent or their name or whatever. You have to like be respectful and like stand up for people, which is nice.
Yeah, she doesn't care about the cultural
Mm-mm.
differences. Like she's the most
Yeah.
accepting person there in the episode when it comes to how he's like, yeah, their differences. I kind of think that making it a fictional country like works in their favor in both of these examples, because then you don't have the problem of like Mulan where it's set in China, but then they did sort of like a pan-Asian representation with like Japanese influences and stuff like that, because then people can be hypercritical. And if they said that he was like a Nigerian prince, or like, you know, if they chose a country, then they'd have to do a lot more research. But because they just say it's from a fictional country in Africa, we get more of the Genovia effect where they can do whatever the hell they want. And it's vaguely, you know, of that region,
Well,
even though Africa's still massive.
yeah.
So,
Well,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be? I don't know. I think I'm very torn up, and maybe it's not my place to be torn up about it, but like I'm very torn up about it being a fictional country.
oh, I think it's lazy, but I think it works in their favor because then you don't piss anyone off about specificity.
But it's like a chance for education that if they just chose somewhere like an actual African country, did their research, brought in writers, brought in like cultural researchers to make sure that what they're doing was accurate, and then did that, it would be an educational opportunity for all viewers watching and would still be this fantastic episode, but maybe have a little bit stronger of an impact that I feel like they missed out on by making it fictional. But then maybe you're right. They made it fictional because it was easier.
Yeah. Because I know if they like said for like how you started off with like it was like, oh, a Nigerian country, or not a Nigerian country, but if it was Nigeria that he came from and not Shakobi, then it would have been like, okay, all the accents are off. This clothing is from this country, not this country. Oh, men wear this, not women. And then just all the little nuances, it just would have been like a huge issue and backlash. Because then kids, I could just imagine like kids going up to someone and be like, you said you're like, are you from this country? Like, do you guys do this and this and this? And then the person's just like, no, please stop harassing me.
It would have
just because you learned this from Disney Channel.
Yeah, that's very true. It would have been a lot more work on them to do it right. I just also like, I guess to me personally, I have like my background is in events and weddings, and I got my roots started in Indian weddings, and I attended a lot of different conferences and training sessions to learn about Indian weddings to make sure that I knew everything going into it when I first got started. But I have a lot of experience with cultural weddings, and to me, like for them to have this wedding moment, like I'm like, what a great opportunity to teach people about like different cultural practices in weddings and how it's what makes weddings so awesome and like so interesting, and the reason that like I just love weddings so much is because they're so different in different places of the world, and I just feel like they missed an opportunity there. Maybe it's just something I wanted because I find it interesting.
I really enjoy how Jareyou's like expectations here and Jessica's
Yeah,
up here.
my
Like,
expectations were high. I was disappointed.
yeah, I do think at least like in comparing fictional African countries, I think part of what works with Wakanda is that they like centralize it more in South African like culture and language a little bit, and they could have at least associated like a region with this fictional country, but and they had the money. Clearly they had the budget like to do research and writing. I'm sure they don't want to for a 20-minute episode. We're really just going through a wish list right now. Any other thoughts though besides that? Because I kind of said all of mine while I summarized. It just flew out.
I don't have any other thoughts, but I do have a funny call out to a line. When Raven is sticking up for Tendaji, she's also then making fun of everyone else's dress. And she goes, I'll call you when shoulder pads come back into fashion, which is never. And I find that hilarious because they're literally coming back into fashion.
Oh, one last thing.
Yeah.
I love that Tanya loves to learn. As soon as she like met him, she was like, oh, tell me about this and this and this. And then of course, if she wasn't all about learning and doing her research, she wouldn't have found out that Raven got engaged.
Yeah.
Just because she was like so into learning about other people's cultures.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah. We don't like Tanya leaves after this season to go to law school, and then she's never seen again. And she's not in half the episodes in season 3. But when she is there, she's an absolute delight. Like, I love seeing this mom that has her own thing going on. Okay. I feel like the last one is the least, like, serious in terms of representation or anything, but it's, like, the most iconic for a Raven fan, which is episode 14, Boyz N Commotion.
Yeah. Boyz N Commotion. So, Boyz N Motion are in town, and they're coming to the Chill Grill to have a quiet dinner where they can get away from their fans, be in a little bit of peace, just be able to enjoy their time together without crazy fans. Well, Raven knows this is happening, so she tells everyone at school. So when they get to the Chill Grill, hordes of high schoolers are coming through and they get chased into the kitchen. And so then Raven ends up like sneaking them out through the storeroom into their house. And Tanya's like freaking out a little bit, but ends up cooking the boys dinner. And they end up just staying at the Baxter family house. And just like trying to be normal and take, stay away from show business for a little bit. And so the boys kind of tell her like, hey, you did a solid for us, so we have your back and we'll do something for you. And so Raven is kind of bragging at school like, I know the boys, blah, blah, blah. And the new villain, who is no longer Alana, is now Bianca, who we get in this episode, because Alana got sent to military school. So now we have Bianca.
Whereas Bianca's been kicked out of military school.
Correct. Maybe they went to military school with Cadet Kelly. Who knows? Then... So we have Bianca. Bianca's like, well, prove it. How do you know the boys? Like, you're just saying this so everyone, like, pays attention to you, but you don't actually know them. She's like, well, the boys told me they owed me one, so they're going to show up at this concert that's being held at the school tonight. She goes home, and all of the boys are like, no, we're not doing that. You told us to separate from show business, and so we're taking a break from show business. And so Raven, Chelsea, and Eddie all dress up as the three guys from Boyz N Motion and put on this performance, but it's like they use all these like fog and stuff to distract from the fact that it's clearly them dressed up as the boys. And then Bianca catches onto it and she's like, something fishy's going on here. And she blows a fan at the stage to kind of make like all of the fog disappear. And it's clear that it's the three of them and people are upset. But then Tanya ends up calling out the boys and are like, you guys are pigs. You've ruined my house. You need to get your shit together. Also, you told Raven you would have her back and you didn't. And so all of them get together. They end up showing at the school and it ends in this big Boyz N Motion performance, which then got stuck in my head for the rest of the evening.
We are the Boyz N Motion. We give you our devotion, boys.
Yeah, it gets stuck in your head.
I have to say, for like the Boyz N Motion, they don't have that much motion. Like
No.
they don't dance that well.
No.
They just kind of like bop on stage.
Yeah. Also, quick side plot: Corey sells their used stuff online. There's the side plot.
He's always there to make a buck.
Yeah. I feel like this is a very iconic episode. Everyone who watched Raven knows this episode. You remember it. It was on the rerun. The other one, which was not on the rerun list. This one, we were seeing the reruns all the time.
I don't remember this episode. I remember the Boyz N Motion, though, because they come up repeatedly. And I don't know. I couldn't really remember them in any episode. I just remembered that, like, they were the group in Raven.
You don't remember them dressing up as Boyz N Motion? I really remember this episode.
Same. I, like, really distinctly remember when Raven's on stage with, the ambiguous looking Boyz N Motion member, and they're like doing like the heart thing together.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I know that. And I was like, I wish I could have been Raven. But
they are a diverse little group of little boy band, right? And that's something that I appreciate, that Jess and I have talked about a little bit with Raven, that we appreciate, is that like Disney didn't shy away from still making the rest of the cast diverse, even though it was focusing on a Black family. Because I was watching it, I was like, what boy band looks like that? Like, especially at that age, in the 2000s.
But it was like prime.
I loved it so much.
That's prime boy band. I guess at the end of when boy bands were in their prime.
Yeah, but like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys were just like white.
It's very true.
Except for, I don't know, probably one or two ambiguous characters I'm forgetting because I don't know boy bands that well. I know One Direction and that's it. And I know Jareyou knows One Direction way better than I do.
No, I was like, this episode set me up for when I needed to fully be, bless you, when I needed to like fully be a One Direction stan.
A Directioner.
When did it? Yeah. So this episode came out in what? 2005.
Yeah.
Started my obsession with One Direction. 2011. Just needed another like 6 years.
Oh, okay.
to get it going. But
so this is like
I was just so excited. Yeah.
This is the episode.
I was like, yeah, I would scream like this.
Yeah. I was like, this is the episode that taught you it's okay to be a crazy fan, which is I feel like it is.
I think we remove the word crazy. It's just a fan.
Yeah.
You're just an enthusiastic
okay,
fan.
that's better. Enthusiastic.
Because fan is short for fanatic.
Yeah.
So
I think there's levels.
You don't need to add more.
Yeah. There's definitely levels.
No, but
because like
I really like that Tanya's as much of a fan of them
my
as
gosh.
Raven at first. She's like really nervous about them staying, and then she gets over it as she's been like mothering them for days.
Yeah.
But I think it's really cute because they like repeatedly show Tanya and Victor getting super excited over the bands that Raven likes too, which you're never too old to be a fan. Clearly, as we have this podcast just to talk about Disney.
Well, and I think it's very true to real life. Like, a lot of times, parents will start listening to stuff because they have to, like, take their kids to the concerts or, like, you know, their kids ask them to like buy them the CDs and stuff like that, and then parents start listening themselves, and then that's how parents end up also becoming fans. So it's very accurate to real life.
Also, can I touch on Bianca for a second?
Yeah.
I don't like her.
Okay.
Same. She's not a good. She's not as good as Adrian.
She does not hold a candle to Adrian. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
And like, I'm glad that they didn't just try to recast Adrian, but I'm still just so mad. I get that they had to keep in Loca and Muffy, but she's bad. Sorry, Bianca, but she's in the next episode too, and I don't have us watching it because I just like, I could not stand her.
But why did they get rid of Alana? Like, why did they get rid of Adrian?
She's probably off filming the second or third Cheetah Girls.
Like, bring her in for the 3 episodes.
And it was like, Raven was still there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. And it probably would have been the second at this point, not the third.
Yeah.
Because Raven's not in the third Cheetah Girls. I don't know. Maybe Adrian was like, getting a little too full of Disney. Or maybe she was getting sick of Raven. You know? They had their ups and downs.
Yeah. My biggest problem with this episode is Corey would not have all that cash from selling things online.
Why not? Oh, cash, you mean?
Yes, he has a shit ton of cash. He has like a cash counter and it's like with all the bills. And like he wouldn't, that's not how selling things online work. And I just feel like it's one of those things where no one poked at the hole in the plot. No one was like, this doesn't really make sense.
I'm trying to think how it would work in 2005 eBay, you know? But this was a time to like sell celebrity stuff on eBay for a lot of money.
Yeah. But it's not like crazy.
Probably like go to a bank account.
Yeah, but he's like 11. Yeah. You're telling me he has a bank account?
Yeah, he wouldn't be able to open it without his parents.
Yeah, so then they would know that he was doing that.
Yeah.
He hires an executive assistant in another episode, Jess. Like, he fully, like, he's invested in stocks. He has an investment portfolio. He has a safe in his bedroom full of money. Okay. He gets a credit card. Lionel gets a credit card.
I know these things.
He buys a hot tub for his bedroom.
Okay, but I still have a problem with it. It's not how purchasing things online work. It's not how it works. Also, would you ever pay
Victor cash it out?
Would you ever pay for something from a celebrity?
No.
The only thing I think of, you know how like some celebrities will like sell clothing that they have worn for certain events or on tour or whatever that is. They'll sell clothing and then donate the money from the clothing for like a fundraiser. I feel like that's the only time to ever spend money on something that's from a celebrity. But like, why are you buying used tissue?
I wouldn't trust it. Like, even something autographed, I wouldn't trust that anything was actually genuinely from the celebrity if it's being sold online, unless it's like being sold from that person's official management. But even then, it's not worth the money for me.
Yeah.
But Jareyou, would you buy something that was like Harry Styles?
No.
What if he was like selling a sweater that he wore?
I would not waste the money. If I have bought merchandise from celebrities,
sure,
like whenever they're like on tour and stuff, I'll do that. But just because they wore it, especially because like something that Harry wears, they'd like the price would be so wild.
Yeah.
If money weren't an issue.
If money weren't an issue. I mean, if money wasn't an issue, then yeah, maybe. Like a sweater, but not like used tissue or like a towel.
Yeah, or like a
that's
lock
gross.
of hair.
I'm not gonna use that. Yeah.
Like
hair, that's really creepy.
It's creepy.
There are those people that sell their used underwear. Like girls that work on OnlyFans that sell their used underwear.
Honestly, I feel like if there was a market for that when I was in college, or I was aware of that, such an easy way to make money. Like,
I know.
I would totally
gotta
do
sell
it.
off those loans.
Yeah, I would totally do it. I'm like, that's not hard. Like, that's all you want? Okay, I'll send you that.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't there an influencer? I don't know if she's an OnlyFans girl or something else, but she sold her bath water or something like
There's
that.
another one who like jarred her farts and sold her farts.
Oh, yeah. That's it too.
Which, I mean, whatever.
Someone else sells their spit.
Ooh, the spit makes me...
Men will buy a lot of things.
That's true.
Spit makes me, like, because of COVID reasons, just very uncomfortable.
Also, Jessica, who's your favorite celebrity? Because I know I can pick on Jareyou, but I can't pick on you as well. But
I think it's hard because, like, I go to so many concerts and I'm a fan of so many people, but I'm not, like, I don't really fangirl over anyone. I would say, like, true, like, celebrity crush where I would freak out and potentially buy something of hers would be Kesha.
There's a great lift. I think Chelsea lifts someone or someone lifts Chelsea.
No, the dude who got his hair cut by Corey's best friend lifted Chelsea. It was very impressive.
It was.
Yeah, that was
I was
one of
like-
my notes, was that Chelsea lift deserved more attention, because I don't think they really like pointed it out at all or like applauded it.
Yeah.
I think that was JJ.
I was really trying to like look and see if there's a stunt person.
Would you be fans of the Boyz N Motion in real life?
There were songs
Like they're
that
pretty to look
sucked.
at. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do.
Their songs kind of suck because they don't really dance that well. They are cute. I'll give them that, I guess. I think I would be more fans if it was like
Yeah.
3 really hot women than Ricky, JJ, and Trey. I didn't realize how like boy bandy they made their names.
So, yeah. Would you be a fan of them?
No, they kind of remind me of The Weeknd, though. Not The Weeknd. I said that wrong. What's that?
The Wanted.
The Wanted! Wow.
I'm glad you're here because
That's all.
I would have not made that connection. Never.
Thank you for being on our podcast, Jareyou. Is there anything else you want to say about Raven?
I guess what people already know, Raven has worked her ass off. She's been working since she was a tiny human.
Mhm.
Literally infancy.
And so when she like took her break from like Cheetah Girls and like That's a Raven and everything like that, I was like, you know what? She deserves it. I'm not
Mhm.
even gonna be upset. Like I would be exhausted too. She did not get to live. I'm sure like the money was fine, made up for the fact that she didn't get to live a normal life. But it was just like you legit grow up on TV and have people judging you all the time, and
Yeah.
that could not have been healthy for her at all.
No.
And she broke barriers. Like, Raven was the
Yeah.
first Disney Channel show to go past 65 episodes, to get 4 seasons. It got a bunch more episodes than normal.
Just to learn a little bit more about history and stuff. But
Yeah.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
definitely broke a lot of barriers. Cannot take that away from her.
Well, thank you for joining us. It was great having you.
Yeah.
And maybe if we do Proud
you.
Family, who knows? We said no cartoons, maybe we'll do cartoons. So if
Yeah.
we do Proud Family, we'll definitely have to have you back on.
I mean,
Looking
Yes,
forward to that reboot
please.
coming.
they have a Ramadan episode, and love it, love it.
Thank you for listening. Please follow us on all our socials. We're 90s Babies Nostalgia on Twitter and YouTube. Spell out the words 90s. Same on TikTok, but please use the numericals there. Let us know what you think of That's So Raven. Season 3 is the long one, and we'd love to know what you think. And we're having fun.
Yeah, we hope you're having fun as well and enjoying having guests on the show. If you ever listening like want to send us a message about your thoughts or want to be on the show, like, we are so happy to have anyone. Obviously, our first 2 guests now have both just been friends of mine, and so if you have something that you want to share, be happy to have you. Just send us a DM.
Yeah, we're happy to have anyone on. Even if you're passionate about 2 very specific episodes, like, let us know. We'd love for you to come on and chat about it. So it's always fun
Mm-hmm.
having other people share in the nostalgia with us. We might have a kind of fun guest coming up soon. It's not
Hopefully in the next
official.
episode.
Yeah, in the next episode. It's not
Mhm.
official, but just gonna put that out there. Maybe by the time this actually goes live, we can edit this out if it's not true. But that will be fun. And we just hope you're enjoying Raven as much as us. These shows just keep getting better.
Yeah.
Truly.
And that's it. Thank you to Patrick Dunovic for our theme music and to Don Wheeler for our art. And aside from that, we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Babies, nostalgia.